At some point in our life, we all face uncertainty. Whether you're making a big life decision or simply trying something new, there is always that nagging question repeating, will this actually work? But what if instead of guessing, we test it? Because testing gives us a safe space to mess it up, learn, and adjust. And failing during testing is infinitely better than failing when it is too late or too expensive to make changes. Recently, I was designing a museum experience for kids. The goal was to inspire and nurture their imaginations. So we follow our design process and ask ourselves, will this actually work for them? Very happily, we said, let's test it. We went to school, gathered a group of kids, and showed them the experience, waiting for their eyes to light up. And let me show you how that went. Looks like he's not having the time of his life, right? In more than 20 years of designing experiences, I've never seen such a clear-cut response. The experience didn't work. But hey, that's exactly why we tested. We wanted to gain a better understanding of our audience, what they thought, how they felt, what made them tick. And bam, there it was, this 8-year-old boy with his fresh and honest perspective showing us something we had completely missed. And in that moment, I was reminded of my own childhood struggles. I grew up in Patagonia, Argentina. Back then, TV shows for children were only half an hour of the Pink Panther before lunch. No video games, no endless cartoons, no YouTube, no calculate my age. So I spent most of my time playing with my sister, imagining new words and creating with what we had at hand. For my 7th birthday, I got a set of bricks from a local brand since imported things were crazy expensive. This set was a pile of all white rectangles without any special shapes or colors. I don't remember if they were in instructions to follow, but what I do remember is that no matter what we tried to build, it never worked. We wanted to build a house, but they weren't enough bricks. We wanted to build an animal, but it was lifeless. This set didn't offer much room for creativity or flexibility. We couldn't build anything. Well, technically, we did build something, a pile. When I revisit that moment, those feelings flood my body again. And now that I'm a designer, and I know we can make a difference in how people feel, interact, and experience something, I can't stop thinking, if only they had tested this with kids. That's why today, having a reality check has become central to everything I do. In the design process, we call this prototyping and testing. And it's about creating a quick early version of an idea to see what works, what doesn't, and what needs improvement. And here's the thing. Prototyping isn't just for designers. It's a life skill. Yes, believe me, it is. For those moments when you are in doubt, whether you are deciding on your new living room layout or choosing a career, no matter the situation, you can prototype, test, and build your way forward. Like a staircase. Each step represents progress towards your goal. But climbing isn't always smooth. Sometimes we get stuck, maybe because the next step feels too steep, too far apart, or just too plain white and boring to keep going. And if nothing helps us move forward, frustration takes over and we give up. This was one of the biggest lessons I learned while developing the interactive exhibits for the Lego house in Denmark. And it was one of the main lessons as well to understand where and why people struggle. If you've ever been to the Lego house in Denmark, you know it's the paradise of playfulness, where every interactive exhibit just works. No instructions, no learning curves, just pure play. My colleagues at Kiss the Frog and I put our hearts and minds to create magical interactive experiences, blending physical and digital to bring bricks to life. Now, how did we ensure that kids didn't feel stuck like my sister and I did with those white building bricks? Well, we prototyped and tested like crazy. And if we detected a struggle at any step, we zoomed in, analyzed the reasons, and proposed new ideas to help them move forward. But how did we know what stepping stones will truly help them progress? Well, we didn't know. But we found this out together with our audience, prototyping and testing. And here is a good example, the RoboLab experience. In this interactive experience, kids programmed Lego robots to plant seeds, water them, and watch flowers grow. The goal was to create a bee-friendly environment to support honey production. We tested this 10 times. During a play test, we put kids to work together so we can hear their conversations and observe interactions. And that's when things got interesting. The experience was pretty simple, just planting seeds, watering them, and watching flowers bloom. However, what we heard was like, we need to cover the sand area with flowers. On the grass, the flowers are growing faster. I think we need to go to the water pit, suck up water to fill up our tanks. That's a good idea. We found this pretty funny. None of these assumptions were true, but clearly kids were looking for more challenge, complexity, and drama. They saw water as a key game element and wanted more unique and diverse play areas on the landscape. So in the next testing, we incorporated all these insights. And as soon as kids discovered they could suck up water from the pit, they teamed up to drive them completely. At this point, the game wasn't about planting flowers anymore. It was a full-scale water extraction operation, which I'm pretty sure that if we had left them long enough, I'm pretty sure they would have transformed it into a desert. That's the magic of testing. Sometimes a simple comment, a curious question, or an unintended interaction can inspire new solutions. Testing is a creative catalyst that leads to ideas you never would have imagined. Testing was intense. Prototypes were built and rebuilt, and sessions were packed with kids playing. Now you could say, yes, that's Lego. Not everyone has the resources. True, but here's the good news. You don't need a huge investment to benefit from prototyping and testing. Because in the end, testing, it's about exploring your questions and giving yourself the time and space to try new things. In fact, some of the best insights for many projects came from cheap and cheerful prototypes, using whatever material we had at hand to answer once again the question, will this actually work? One of my favorite examples, our design for the support system of a virtual reality diving experience. For this, we hacked together quick prototypes, and instead of spending weeks in sketches and 3D models, we adjusted real time. And we turned testing into a community effort, cheerfully engaging our kids, their school friends, neighbors, and relatives. Look how cheap and cheerful a prototype can be, and the joy it brings. Now, how can we use prototypes in our own life? Want to rearrange your living room? Thinking about a new gallery wall? Whenever you have an idea, before going full into it at risk of crashing into reality, there is a prototype that can save your day. And this doesn't just apply to objects, it works with real life too. Take the case of Pedro, a talented musician from Argentina. He heard too often, music isn't a real career, you will starve. So he played it safe and became an accountant. He built a stable life and started a family, but he wondered, what if I had followed music? One day, he realized he needed to take action. So instead of quitting his job overnight, he tested small versions of his dream. Weekend workshops, weekend gigs, and different ways to explore how to integrate music into his life. And yes, let's be honest, not every test leads to an immediate solution, especially when you're working on something new. Call it a career shift or a new recipe for your Sunday meal. There is a high risk of failure simply because you never have done this before. But think about science experiments. You start with a hypothesis, you try something, observe the results, and adjust. There are many failures until you get it right. And everybody accepts that failure, it isn't bad, it's just part of the process. Now, do you remember the story I told you about the 8-year-old boy? It looked like a disaster, yes. We didn't see the reaction we wanted. But we gained something better, real insights to improve our idea. And trust me, sometimes it's painful. I don't have the photo of my face when I saw that kid's reaction. Probably for the best. But we learned a ton. And in the end, the experience became an immersive, interactive experience where kids can dive into fantasy, create new worlds, and swim in magical rivers. And that's more than we could have imagined. So when things don't go as planned, take a deep breath, thank your big failure for being so constructive, embrace the lessons, and keep experimenting. And if needed, repeat. And repeat it again. Testing is a life skill for anyone navigating uncertainty, anyone designing experiences like me or facing big life decisions like Pablo. You will find the answers along the way, so you just have to start. Take action. Embrace the wonderful process of failing greatly and nailing it brilliantly. Whether it's a hit or a miss, every step helps you move forward. Because if you want to truly innovate, leave a mark, or follow that deep, persisting calling, it's all about testing, learning, and growing. Thank you.